As the Pats bandwagon grows, some are starting to list the team as AFC favorites. We start today's show telling you what we think. This is Locked On Patriots.
You are Locked On Patriots, your daily New England Patriots podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's happening? I am your host, Nick Cattles, born and raised in New England, been covering the Pats for 16 years, also co-host of the Greg Bedard Patriots podcast with Nick Cattles and a sports radio veteran. Welcome to Locked On Patriots, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the number one sports podcast network, your team every day. And I remind you, we will be going live on YouTube right after Jets Patriots on Thursday night, so be on the lookout for that. But on today's show, we'll start to dive into the Jets matchup on Thursday night and tell you what to look out for. Also, we'll share the comment from Mike Vrabel on Tuesday that helps explain this 8-2 start. But first, there's lots of talk about the Pats being AFC favorites. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. The Patriots are unequivocally a good football team. It is inarguable at this point at 8-2 after beating the Bills in Buffalo, beating Tampa in Tampa this past weekend. We are talking about a good football team. I know their schedule has been on the light side. I know some people will use that against them, but they're beating bad teams soundly, and they're beating good teams on the road. This is unequivocally a good football team. And Damian Woody, this week on ESPN, said that the Super Bowl road, the road to the Super Bowl, runs through Foxborough. Now, I'm here to tell you the Patriots have a shot to get to the Super Bowl. When you're 8-2, you've done what they've done. Drake Maye playing at the level that he's playing at with this coaching staff, you absolutely have a shot at getting to the Super Bowl. But should the Patriots be regarded as the AFC favorites? No, at least not yet. I still have some questions that need to be answered before we get into January football. When you think about December, when you think about January, you think about terrible weather, cold weather, inclement weather, got to deal with the rain, got to deal with the snow, got to deal with the wind. And when you're dealing with those elements, you want to run the football. I mean, we could always go back to that game in 2021 in Buffalo where Mac Jones didn't throw more than a couple of passes. It was all run, 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 run. Patriots beat the Bills. People are feeling great. You're going to need to run the football when you get to December, when you get to January. And right now, the Patriots, aside from the big runs from TreVeyon Henderson on Sunday, we're looking at this in totality. We're looking at this over the balance of the season. And the Patriots, they have not been able to run the football consistently. These stats include Drake Maye, who's done a good job running the ball. The Patriots are 27th in the NFL in rush EPA. They're 25th in EPA per rush. They're 22nd in yards per carry. They're 29th in success rate. TreVeyon Henderson is 27th in yards after contact, and that's after those two huge runs on Sunday. Ramondre Stevenson is 39th in yards after contact. That's out of 47 qualified rushers. Now, I will be fair. I always try to be fair, and I will give you this caveat. The Patriots have faced the sixth highest rate of stacked box. When defenses are playing against the Patriots, they are stacking the box. They're putting 8 or more defenders in there to stop the run. So that's the caveat. But they haven't been able to run consistently. And when we talk about inclement weather, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Drake Maye can't throw the football in rain, can't throw it in snow. There is some question of whether or not his slow start in Tampa was because of the rain on that first drive. I know Tony Romo made a big deal of it. I need to see a much bigger sample size than 3 or 4 throws. But I do think, for the most part, we've seen Drake Maye play in really good weather. So I want to see how the weather could impact him. He has said it on the record. He loves the North Carolina sunny and humid weather, warm weather. So I need to see Drake Maye play in some tough weather to decide whether or not he can be the same quarterback or he loses a lot, he loses a little. I only think it's fair to actually see that play out before you have an opinion on it. So the run game needs to be better. I need to see the quarterback in tough weather, because if Drake Maye is less of a quarterback in tough weather, then two of the things that this offense has relied on, and two of the reasons why Drake Maye has been terrific this year, has been deep passing, and it's not going to be as easy to complete those deep passes if there's wind, rain, snow involved. And also, third down efficiency. Drake Maye has been incredibly efficient this year, especially on third down. If you can't run and you're looking at 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, that 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10 is tougher to convert in weather that is not as good as it's been. Also, the red zone. The Patriots have been inefficient in the red zone. Their defense has been horrendous in the red zone. As a matter of fact, they literally have the worst red zone defense in football. 32nd in the league. Teams have scored 73.91% of the time that they have hit the red zone. And if you're playing better teams and better offenses, you're not going to survive if teams are scoring almost 74% of the time that they touch the red zone. Because better offenses, just speaking from common sense here, better offenses are going to have much higher probability of getting into the red zone because you're dealing with better offenses, better quarterbacks, better offensive lines, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the Patriots are dead last in red zone defense against offenses that wouldn't scare many people. Now, Tampa, they've got Emeka Egbuka, Baker Mayfield, but we know they didn't have some of their best. Chris Godwin, Bucky Irving, Mike Evans. The Atlanta Falcons are up and down. Don't know who you're facing when you play them. Dylan Gabriel isn't great. We can go down the line, but the point is the point. The Patriots have not faced a number of great offenses, and they're still dead last in red zone defense. And offensively, they're below average. They're 18th in the NFL. They're scoring on 57.14% of their red zone drives. It's just not good enough. Now, again, being fair, they have played 3 straight games against tough defenses. They also turned the football over a couple of times against Pittsburgh in the red area. TreVeyon Henderson turned the football over in the red area a few weeks ago. So we have to highlight those. Drake Maye threw a couple of interceptions in the end zone, one against Pittsburgh, one this past weekend against Tampa. But that goes part and parcel with struggling at times with your red zone offense. You're turning the football over. Your short yardage runs have not been effective enough. And if you can't run consistently, the red zone is going to get tougher with tougher weather because defenses are going to start playing the run heavily when you get inside the 20, inside the 15, inside the 10, inside the 5. So you have to get the run game going, and I think that would help your red zone offense to get going. Now, I hope their run defense gets back on track because if their run defense gets back on track after what happened against Tampa, it could help their red zone defense in December and January. Only stands to reason. If teams are going to be stuck with running the football more often than not in that bad weather, if your run defense has been what it was 9 out of the first 10 weeks, then those other teams, they're going to have challenges of scoring against you. But the red zone, Patriots have to be better. Before I call them the AFC favorites, they've got to be better running the football. They've got to be better in the red zone. And then just kind of the thing that we've talked about multiple times here, their depth is a little scary. Ramondre Stevenson, Terrell Jennings were limited at Tuesday's practice, short week. We'll see if they play. If not, I mean, you've got TreVeyon Henderson, you've got Dearness Johnson, and then you see what else you can cobble together from the practice squad. Austin Hooper is dealing with a concussion. He did not practice on Tuesday. Very unlikely that he's going to play on a short week going through the concussion protocol. And before the season kicked off, we discussed the tight end position and how it's Hunter Henry, Austin Hooper, and bust. I mean, you could look at Jack Westover, maybe C.J. Dupree from the practice squad, but Not great options there behind your top two. Christian Ellis and now Jack Gibbons, both limited at Tuesday's practice. We've talked about linebacker. Now, your top two linebackers, or two out of your top three, could miss Thursday night. We'll see if they're out there. And that's not even talk about outside cornerback with Alex Austin and how he struggled at the start of the year. Your safety position, now that Kyle Duggar and Jabril Peppers are both gone. Do you really feel confident in Del Pettis taking over if one of Jalen Hawkins or Craig Woodson gets hurt? Offensive line, you're always looking for offensive linemen. So the Patriots, yes, they have a shot to get to the Super Bowl with health because of Drake Maye, Mike Vrabel, Josh McDaniels, but I would not say that they're the favorites yet. I need some of those questions answered. All right, Mike Vrabel gives us a look behind the curtain with a telling comment and anecdote about the 2025 Pats. Find out what he said next. This is Locked On Patriots, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. As the days get shorter and the nights come earlier, it can start to feel a little heavier, especially when life is already packed with work, family, and everything else. This season, it's so important to reach out and check in with friends, family, or even yourself. Just like checking on a teammate or reconnecting with someone you haven't seen in a while can lift your spirits, reaching out for therapy can make a real difference too. BetterHelp makes that first step easier by connecting you with a licensed therapist online from wherever you are. Therapy isn't just for when things are falling apart. It's about staying balanced and growing through the tough seasons. Over 5 million people have used BetterHelp, and with 30,000 therapists available, finding support really is just a few clicks away. And this month, don't wait to reach out. Whether you're checking in on a friend or reaching out to a therapist yourself, BetterHelp makes it simple to take that first step. Listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/LockedOn. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockdown, because taking that step towards support might just leave you wondering, why didn't I do this sooner? Thank you for making Locked On Patriots your first listen of the day. Thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Mama, we made it. Your team every day. Don't forget to help us out here by, if you're watching on YouTube, liking, commenting, and subscribing as we get closer to 7,500 subs. And don't forget that we will be going live on Thursday night following the Jets-Patriots game, so be on the lookout for that. Mike Vrabel. It took Mike Vrabel less than half a season to build culture with this Patriots team. Less than half a season. Think about 2024 for a second. I don't want to keep you there for too long because it's so tough to think about last year. But think about the pointing of the fingers. Think about guys not taking accountability. The head coach not taking accountability. It was a brutal season through and through, and it was rather obvious that the culture just wasn't right. And Mike Vrabel, one of the first things that he needed to establish as the Patriots head coach was a culture. And he's already done it. Doug Kyed posted during Tuesday's press conference with the media, Mike Vrabel passes along a story that he was trying to shorten the team's schedule this week by giving up 25 minutes in the full squad meeting to give the team more rest. The leaders on the team felt it was too important and valuable. Vrabel said, quote, "I appreciated that they thought it was an important part of their day," unquote. Leaders do this type of stuff. Guess what? The others follow. Also, don't overlook the staff choices, because I think a lot of those guys have certainly helped Mike Vrabel set this culture. Mark Daniels with a Mike Vrabel quote from the same press conference, quote, "When things are going good, you have to prepare for things when they're not," unquote. That's a fantastic quote. When things are going good, you have to prepare for things when they're not. Don't put your feet up. Don't think you have everything figured out. Understand that you might be doing really well at whatever's going on in your life, personally, professionally, but also understand that inevitably, as part of life, things aren't always going to go well. And have you prepared yourself to deal with those moments? Another post from Mark Daniels. Drake Maye said Mike Vrabel gave them the option to practice inside on Tuesday, but leaders on the team opted to practice outside where it was very cold. Drake Maye said, quote, No shortcuts, unquote. Love it. This is culture. This is character. This is toughness. How do we get here so quick? Well, you got to pick the right eggs. When you go shopping, you got to pick the right eggs. And the Patriots, Mike Vrabel, the front office, they picked the right eggs. They went out in free agency and they found a number of veterans that have track records of being good teammates, good leaders, good people. Mac Hollins is a shining example of this. I don't know him personally, but he is certainly one of the guys in the league that other guys talk about in glowing terms. And every step of the way throughout his career, he has been good for a football team. He might not be getting you 85 catches and 1,500 yards, but he brings the character, he brings the culture, he brings the leadership, he brings the experience. But it wasn't only just free agency. Don't forget how this team attacked the draft. Not only did they draft talent, which you've got to draft first and foremost, but they also drafted a lot of guys who were captains, a lot of guys who were upperclassmen. You know, you look at Craig Woodson. I think he was, 24 years old when he was drafted by the Patriots out of Cal. And Craig Woodson was a two-time team captain at Cal. And they brought in a number of those guys. You can look at a lot of the draft picks from the 25 class, and they are captains. And if they weren't captains, they were considered leaders of their football teams. And you also have the right quarterback, which helps. Drake Maye, his draft interviews. I'll never forget Elliott Wolf saying, well, Drake Maye, when he was meeting with the Patriots, they tried to get him to throw some of his teammates under the bus on plays at North Carolina that were clearly not Maye's fault, but Maye took responsibility and accountability for the mistakes that weren't even his mistakes. And that showed a certain type of leadership. The post-game comments that we hear from Drake Maye often. We also know that he is hyper competitive. We also know that he has a work ethic that is through the roof. These are all traits that you look for when you're setting your leadership group, when you're bringing guys into the program. And Mike Vrabel connects. And, Gerard Mayo, to me, he seemed like he connected as kind of the player in the locker room, but not necessarily connected on a level where Mike Vrabel is connecting not only as a former player who can relate to all different levels, special teams guys, right? Third, fourth round picks, guys that are starting, guys that are winning Super Bowls, guys that are considered some of the best players at their position. I mean, he can relate to all those different levels of player, which I do think is crucial. Gerard Mayo only knew one way, fortunately for him, which was being a really good player. But I just feel like Mike Vrabel, and I'm not there behind closed doors, but I do feel like on a human level, Mike Vrabel can relate to his players, but he also keeps the line in the sand where they respect him as someone that is above them. He has the human touch. He has that human connection. We saw the moment when Christian Barmore was hurt and the telecast talked about it. Jim Nantz, Tony Romo talked about it in real time when Vrabel is, kneeling down next to Christian Barmore and he's holding Barmore's hand. And that's to tell Christian Barmore, like, I'm here with you, man. I'm not just your coach that's just going to throw you out there and I just want stats. I just want performance. I'm here for you as well. And when you're going through something like this, I'm going to be there. The players loved playing for Mike Vrabel in Tennessee. I'm not going to say 100% of the players. You're not going to get 100% approval rating in anything. But a lot of players in Tennessee loved playing for him. I mean, just listen to Taylor Lewan talk about his experiences. And a lot of guys in Cleveland seemingly enjoyed the company of Mike Vrabel. And, he hit it off in Cleveland. And the same is pretty obvious in New England. Doug Kyde spoke to Stephon Diggs, and Stephon Diggs says that Mike Vrabel's coaching style is like, quote unquote, the perfect parent. And again, if you're the perfect parent, you feel like you connect to your parent, your mom or your dad. You have a great relationship with your mom, your dad, hopefully both for your sake. But you also know they're your parents. They've got final say. They lay down the law. And you saw, if you didn't see, a video of Christian Gonzalez and Carlton Davis before the 4th and goal situation down in Tampa where they're talking and Carlton Davis says he would go for it and Christian Gonzalez says he would go for it. And Mike Vrabel goes for it because he's giving them the consistency. He's giving them the belief. He's giving them the trust. And now they're all on the same page. Mike Vrabel wants to go for it on 4th and goal. I'd imagine the vast majority of the team said, let's go for it on 4th and goal. How do you exceed expectations? You create belief, you create confidence, and you play smart. And we've seen a lot of that. You play and coach smart. And the right leadership group absolutely helps. And that's what Mike Vrabel and his coaching staff did in the players. They selected the right leadership group, guys that earned it. They weren't all pros. I know Marcus Jones was an all-pro returner, but not an all-pro cornerback, but he was named a captain. And what you see right now is 100% buy-in. Coming up next, it's time to get an early jump on this week's matchup with some thoughts on the Jets. This is Locked On Patriots, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. The opening whistle blows on a new repair. Get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Need parts fast for a project? Supply House has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer in their Trademaster perks like priority shipping and dedicated support. Make the whole process smoother. Join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHNFL5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. You always have a shot to enjoy the game and enjoy the action. It's awesome. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. I love same-game parlays, and I've had my share of wins using that SGP icon on game days. Maybe you like Jalen's points, rebounds, and assists. You can look to combine all of them to get a better and bigger payday. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Again, new customers, $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. So it's a little bit of a funky week here because the Patriots play on Thursday night. It's the first time that I'm hosting Locked On Patriots for a Thursday night game. So tomorrow's crossover episode is actually going to act as our deep dive preview, which is kind of a bummer because I love doing those deep dive previews. But I did watch Cleveland and the Jets from last weekend. I checked out the All-22, and I wanted to give you some early thoughts before we get into that crossover tomorrow. Number one, Garrett Wilson is going to be out for the Jets. He's going to miss 3 to 4 weeks, and this is a crippling injury for the Jets and the Jets offense. When you look at wide receiver, the Jets, they just don't have much. Tyler Johnson, John Mechie, who was traded during the season into New York, right, from Houston. They just added A.D. Mitchell from Indianapolis, so how much of the offense does A.D. Mitchell know? Probably nothing. John Mechie, of course, dealing with learning the offense as well. So they just don't have a lot at wide receiver. They didn't have a lot at wide receiver with Garrett Wilson. And I do wonder, will the Patriots play man coverage? Will they look at these quote-unquote weapons and say, no, we can lock them down? Christian Gonzalez, Carlton Davis, we're going to play man coverage. Let's play man, and let's put pressure on Justin Fields in that run game. So Garrett Wilson being out is huge for the Jets offense. Speaking of Justin Fields, Man, oh man, does he love running. We've talked about Drake Maye, where if he feels pressure at times, or if he doesn't quite have somebody open quickly, he will tuck and run. Now he's been getting better at that. I thought he was much better at that, as we talked about on yesterday's episode, against Tampa than he was against Atlanta. He is showing improvement. Justin Fields has never really shown improvement in that category. He loves running, and he's going to tuck and run as quickly as he can. And what is really difficult for him is he doesn't necessarily see it well, as they say. Drake Maye sees the field well. He gets through progressions. He understands what defenses are trying to do against him. He has been one of the best quarterbacks against disguised coverages this year. So he sees it well. Justin Fields doesn't. So when you combine not seeing the field well and then, almost autopilot going to run with the football when something doesn't feel right, what you have is a quarterback that is constantly scrambling, running around, not keeping his eyes downfield, missing open receivers. He is also inaccurate, so he has trouble hitting sometimes open guys, let alone guys that he's going to fit it into a window. And throughout his career, he's had some decision-making questions. So Justin Fields, if you compare him to Baker Mayfield, who I didn't think was great, by the way, this past weekend against the Patriots defense, but you compare him to, Baker Mayfield, to Josh Allen, some of these quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers, when Rodgers was playing pretty well. You compare him to some of the quarterbacks the Patriots have faced this year, Justin Fields he doesn't stack up. And so that's a weakness. And now he doesn't have Garrett Wilson to help him. But I do wonder if the Patriots can get pressure. Can they get pressure to rattle Justin Fields? The Jets' offensive line, it's not bad. They've got a number of guys that they've drafted pretty high. Olu Fashanu, the 2024 first-round pick, he kept Myles Garrett mostly quiet on Sunday, and we know how difficult that is. You got left guard John Simpson, who my grading system, I had him as a net neutral. I had him as a 0 versus Cleveland, which sounds bad, but it's really not. If you're an offensive lineman and you're at a 0 at the end of the day, then it all evened out. Joe Tippmann, right guard, he also graded as a 0 against Cleveland, so he evened out. And then you've got right tackle, a guy we talked about a lot before the draft, Armand Membu, who's having a really good rookie season. Didn't think he was necessarily awesome against Cleveland, but he's been good this year. Josh Myers, the center, he could be the weak spot of this offensive line, but the offensive line, it's pretty good. And we know the Patriots, they have not consistently gotten a 4-man pass rush for a lot of this year, especially lately. And two guys who I think are going through it physically, Harold Landry and Christian Barmore. Harold Landry is still making positive plays, but a lot of those positive plays are coming in the run game on the edge. He has lost a little bit of that pass rush juice that he had the first month and a half. And I think it goes directly back to, a few weeks ago when he had a really tough looking injury that I thought was going to cost him the season. He somehow got back out there. I believe it was the Titans game, but he hasn't necessarily been the same guy since. Christian Barmore, 2 quiet weeks in a row. Now, against Atlanta, you could explain some of that. Atlanta double-teamed him a lot. I think Evan Lazar had it at 14 times. But Christian Barmore, he was, for all intents and purposes, ineffective against Tampa. And the Patriots need Christian Barmore to get going again. Because if you're not going to have Harold Landry at full speed, Milton Williams and Christian Barmore are going to provide a lot of your pass rush, of course, with Caleb Von Chason, who's been really good. But Harold Landry and Christian Barmore, if they can get going again, that'd be huge for this defense, huge for this pass rush. Now, offensively for the Patriots, I think you could see a decent amount of play action against the Jets defense. I think you could see some misdirection. The second and third levels of this Jets defense, they can be baited. So I think you're going to see some of that from Josh McDaniels and Drake Maye. I wonder how will Will Campbell and Jared Wilson follow up from this past weekend, because I don't think either guy was good in that game against Tampa. I thought in the second half specifically, both guys had a rough time. How do they respond to that after a tough game in a short week? And then, of course, running backs, Ramondre Stevenson, Terrell Jennings, are they healthy? I do think that the Patriots could try to attack the edges of this Jets defense, this run defense. And I think TreVeyon Henderson, could get going a little bit outside the tackles. But who's healthy and what's the usage going to look like? So just some early thoughts. We'll have more during the crossover, but that wraps up this edition of Locked On Patriots. Thank you for making us your first listen and for being an everydayer. Reach out to me on Twitter at NickCRadio, and don't forget to throw a comment in on the YouTube channel. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up, hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe. We're trying to get to 7,500. Let's get there by the weekend. And for your second listen, get a double dose of the Locked On NFL podcast with Tyler the Madman Rowland and Tony Wiggins. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Have a fantastic day, and we'll see you tomorrow with more Thursday Night Football thoughts on the crossover episode.